Whilst passing the first milestone, that of going solo, and preparing for the second, my A licence, a further project was passing through my mind. I dismissed it as firmly as I could whenever the thought overcame my natural reluctance. But the more I tried to banish it, the more strongly it returned. My normal instincts of self-preservation were as ineffectual as Canute's demand of the sea. I wanted to try a parachute jump. That isn't true, I didn't want to. Nobody wants to do that. This was another obstacle of fear that by its very enormity of terror fascinated me, as a doomed rabbit is fascinated by a snake. During the following months, as I prepared for my flying licence examinations, I frequently glanced over the side of the Tiger Moth aircraft and looked at and through the emptiness beneath me. There flashed through my mind the image of my body falling through space, tumbling to oblivion. I watched my body until it became a speck amongst the myriad of specks that made up the landscape. This recurring image brought violent attacks of vertigo and made me shrink, unnerved, into the cockpit, hating myself and the devil within that drove me to such idiocy. Evidently, I should explain why I had to jump. Ingenuously, I have thought it simply the action of a coward. I had to prove to myself that I was not a coward, therefore I must jump. Later, a more facile analysis by a flying comrade suggested that it was my innate sense of publicity. That so strong was my conceit and wish to be a celebrity, even at that tender age, I was prepared to go to the lengths of risking my life for public adulation. Another pseudo-psychiatric suggestion was that I wanted to be a boy, and therefore this was simply another manifestation of frustrated masculinity. Now, in comparative maturity, I must confess the second theory rings true. Though not for constant and international fame would I jump again. I waited patiently for my 17th birthday and practised interminably the various tortuous manoeuvres on which I would be tested for my licence. Figures of 8 around 2 pylons, and dead stick landings to within inches of a chalked circle in the middle of the airfield. The 8 was a test of flying accuracy. 2 pylons had to be encircled at a constant height and airspeed, with the evolution of the 8 to be as near perfect as possible. The flight path resembled a pair of spectacles, with the pylons in the centre of the lens. The cross-eyed effect of my earlier efforts caused a certain amount of unkind amusement, but as the day neared, I managed to give the impression of normal eyesight. The flying test was arranged soon after I was 17. It was a sunny day, with people going their ways quite normally. I felt a mild resentment that on such a day they could be so unconcerned. The sealed barograph, an infernal contraption that traced on a chart any variations of height during my solo test manoeuvres, was placed in the rear of the aeroplane. With this omniscient and incorruptible passenger, and under the watchful eyes of the chief flying instructor and fellow students, I perspired my way through the test. I landed and accompanied the chief instructor and the barograph to his office. With ballot box tensity, the seals were broken. What happened there?" asked the instructor, pointing to a sharp dip in the pen's spindly trace. "A thermal current," I lied hopefully. "Some current," he said as he continued examining the telltale trace. I examined him, examining it, and observed the analogy of the lines around his eyes and mouth. As they deepened, so my spirits sank sympathetically. "I think it will do," he observed finally. "We'll send it to the ministry. Now for the oral." Half an hour later, having survived the barrage of questions, I left his office. A week later, my licence arrived. The celebrations over, my thoughts returned to the parish.